It's crazy that in this moment of history we are still talking about poverty and hunger. We have to shift our point of view from the human being as production machinery into a different point of view where human beings will serve other purposes, higher purposes.
Diego Gutiérrez Zaldívar is a pioneer of web development in Argentina. As a developer, he was part of the founding teams of Clarin Digital, Panagon.com, and Internet Argentina. Diego is the founder and CEO of RSKLabs and is an advocate for cryptocurrency adoption across South America. We met up with Diego while in New York for Consensus 2018 to learn more about his story.
Your career before crypto, what did that look like?
In part, I was doing technology. At 11, I started programming, but the first stage of my life was very focused on the social aspects, and I was looking to create some impact in the world by the traditional means, like creating political parties, social organizations, working on the slums. And in that process, I came to that realization in my early 20s that the main problem in society was the concentration of power. When people start building power on their way up in the social hierarchies, they start doing concessions to do that. Achieving power becomes the objective, and as you get more power, maybe you start with ideals, but in the process you go losing the freedom to actually carry on with those ideals. So at the end, it's just how we structure power that was corrupting the society, not the people themselves. And I started looking to create organizations like startups and organizations that were more flat, more cooperative, and mostly I failed because later on I understood that there's also the incentives that drive people. So you need to align both ideals and incentives. Finally, when I got in touch with Bitcoin, it was clear to me after 15 days of reading about it, almost non-sleeping, which I think is what everybody else went through. Bitcoin was a tool to align social incentives to create different power structures that were more fair, without any means of corruptions or power concentration.
Tell us the story about you had a friend that introduced you to and you kind of wrote it off, and what did that process look like?
For me, it was like play money. So I left it. I kept going with my things and my companies. And 1 year later, in mid-2012, I opened a Bitcoin account. He sent me, 5,000 Bitcoins, something like that. It was not that much money back then, but I committed the mistake of sending it back. But he told me, you know what, just keep one Bitcoin so you know and you play with it. I did that, and then I realized that Bitcoin was separating money and state, and that was a very powerful thing.
Why is that powerful to you?
In Latin America, you don't have a way to protect your wealth if it's not for Bitcoin. Argentina has had 30% inflation per year for the last 15 years. And we had bail-ins, hyperinflation, devaluation, everything you have on the books of bad economic measures, we had it. And if you go to the extreme of Venezuela, there are people that are running mining machines and by earning $30 or $20 per month are making a living out of it. So a whole family is living out of it.
Well, tell us a little bit about your projects, because you have Koi Banks, you have RSK, and then the NGOs.
The Bitcoin Argentina NGO, it was mostly a tool for the community to have a more institutional voice. So we first created the community, we started the meetups, the Latin American Bitcoin Conference, we started gathering around these ideas and building projects. At a certain point, everything in the media was, Bitcoin is the best tool for criminals and to buy drugs, and it was always tainted with bad uses. So we said we need to give an institutional voice. So when the press needs to learn about it, somebody that is informed will talk about it. So that was the objective, was how we could foster the adoption of these technologies and create an economic and social ecosystem around these technologies. At the end, it doesn't matter who is successful in particular, but the whole ecosystem needs to thrive. And that's why I think it's very important that we pass this initial stage and we get into mass adoption, because then it's irreversible.
If you were to go ahead like 30 years and look back, 40 years and look back, 50 years and look back, like what is that thing going to be that you hope that you had a lot of impact in, and that you hope that the society and the world have reached within this technology?
I mean, my full dream would be to create tools of empowerment and to have a society where people it's empowered and they take their lives in their hands, and then, you know, through collaboration and organization, they can have a good life, you know, a prosper life and a life in peace.